Hi, I'm Dr. John Kenworthy. Welcome to the short tutorial on your brain on anxiety and stress. It is essential to know how our brain responds to the stimuli which trigger an anxiety response so that you are equipped to deal appropriately with anxiety. Let me highlight the key areas of your brain that are involved, and then I will explain what happens inside the brain. The thalamus is the central hub for sights and sounds. The thalamus breaks down incoming visual cues by size, shape, and colour, and auditory cues by volume and dissonance, and then signals the cortex. The cortex then gives raw sights and sounds meaning, enabling you to be conscious of what you are seeing and hearing. And I'll mention here that the prefrontal cortex is vital to turning off the anxiety response once the threat has passed. The amygdala is the emotional core of the brain, whose primary role is to trigger the fear response. Information passing through the amygdala is associated with an emotional significance. The bed nucleus of the stria terminals is particularly interesting when we discuss anxiety. While the amygdala sets off an immediate burst of fear, the BLST perpetuates the fear response, causing longer-term unease typical of anxiety. The locus coeruleus receives signals from the amygdala and initiates the classic anxiety response: rapid heartbeat, increased blood pressure, sweating, and pupil dilation. The hippocampus is your memory center, storing raw information from the senses, along with emotional baggage attached to the data by the amygdala. Now we know these key parts, what happens when we are anxious, stressed, or fearful? Anxiety, stress, and of course fear are triggered primarily through your senses. Sight and sound are first processed by the thalamus, filtering incoming cues and sent directly to the amygdala or to the cortex. Smell and touch go directly to the amygdala, bypassing the thalamus altogether. This is why smells often evoke very powerful memories or feelings. Any cues from your incoming senses that are associated with a threat in the amygdala, whether that threat is real or not, current or not, are immediately processed to trigger the fear response. This is the expressway. It happens before you consciously feel the fear. The hypothalamus and pituitary gland cause the adrenal glands to pump out high levels of the stress hormone cortisol. Too much cortisol short-circuits the cells of the hippocampus, making it difficult to organize the memory of a trauma or a stressful experience. Memories lose context and become fragmented. The body's sympathetic nervous system shifts into overdrive, causing the heart to beat faster, blood pressure to rise, and lungs to hyperventilate. Perspiration increases and the skin's nerve endings tingle, causing goosebumps. Your senses become hyper-alert, freezing you momentarily as you drink in every detail. Adrenaline floods to the muscles, preparing you to fight or run away. The brain shifts focus from digestion to focus on the potential dangers, sometimes causing evacuation of the digestive tract through urination, defecation, or vomiting. Heck, if you're about to be eaten as someone else's dinner, why bother digesting your own? Only after the fear response has been activated does the conscious mind kick in. Some sensory information takes a more thoughtful route from the thalamus to the cortex. The cortex decides whether the sensory information warrants a fear response. If the fear is a genuine threat in space and time, the cortex signals the amygdala to continue being on alert. Fear is a good, useful response essential to survival. However, anxiety is a fear of something that cannot be located in space and time. Most often, it is that indefinable something triggered initially by something real that you sense, but that in itself is not threatening, but it is associated with a fearful memory. And the bed nucleus of the stria terminals perpetuate that fear response. Anxiety is a real fear response for the individual feeling anxious, and anxiety can be debilitating for the sufferer. Now that you know how anxiety happens in your brain, we can pay attention to how we can deliberately use our prefrontal cortex to turn off an inappropriate anxiety response once a threat has passed.
Sometimes it feels like DNA gets all the credit. Yes, DNA is very important. It codes for your traits. But sometimes what gets left out is how important RNA is. Because without RNA, you actually couldn't get that genetic message out to your cells so that they can start producing proteins. RNA is a very important biomolecule, just as important as DNA. So what we're going to do right now is compare and contrast RNA with DNA. This is really important to understand because if we don't understand it, we can't understand protein synthesis. And protein synthesis is the process that gets your DNA to code for the proteins that make up so many of your traits. So let's talk about DNA and RNA. They both sound kind of similar, and actually they are both nucleic acids, which are a type of biomolecule. But let's go ahead and compare and contrast them real quickly. So DNA, it stands for deoxyribose nucleic acid. The deoxyribose is a sugar, and nucleic acid is the type of biomolecule that it is. DNA is also double-stranded. That means it has two strands, and it's in a double helix shape, also known as a twisted ladder. We also have mentioned the bases in DNA. Remember, the bases are really important because they actually code for the traits. So the bases are adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. And they go together like this. If we remember the little mnemonic device, apples in the tree, that helps you remember A goes with T, and car in the garage, so C goes with G. Also, DNA is found in the nucleus. So those are all things about DNA. RNA, on the other hand, stands for ribonucleic acid. The ribo, that's actually part of ribose, which is a sugar. So just like DNA had deoxyribose, RNA has ribose. They both contain a sugar. RNA also has four bases. Remember in DNA, they were A and T, C and G. Well, in RNA, you have all the same bases except for one. There is no T, otherwise known as thymine. There's no T in RNA. Instead, it's a U. The U is for uracil. So you can't remember apples in the tree for RNA. That's not going to work because there's no T. So instead, try remembering apples under. So it's kind of like they're under a tree. A for adenine and U for uracil. They go together. Also, there's still C and G. Remember cars in the garage, that helps you remember cytosine goes with guanine. So the bases are pretty much the same in RNA except for the uracil instead of thymine. RNA also will start out in the nucleus, but it's going to travel out of the nucleus. It's going to help deliver the message. There are actually 3 types of RNA. But don't worry, because what they stand for, it really helps give away what they do. And let me give you an example. So the first type of RNA is messenger RNA, and the actual acronym that you'll see for it is mRNA, messenger RNA, and its job is to carry a message based off of the DNA. Second type of RNA is called the transfer RNA, or abbreviated tRNA, and its job is to transfer the message. And then we have rRNA. That stands for ribosomal RNA. And so, kind of like it sounds, it actually is a component of the ribosome. If you remember back in cells, we've talked about how ribosomes make protein. And it's a very important thing in protein synthesis. Obviously, ribosomes are going to be involved because that's what we're doing. We're making protein. Now that you know the difference between RNA and DNA, you're completely ready to explore the concept of protein synthesis. We have another clip on that fascinating process. That's it for the Amoeba Sisters, and we remind you to stay curious.
Well, hello, folks. This is Wesley Virgin, your master motivator master. Virtual training here with 7dayfitness.com, and I'm here to bring you the workout for the day. And we're going to be working on the abs. And I'm going to show you an awesome exercise where you can work the top abs here and your lower abs all simultaneously. Hey, folks, get with me. All right, folks, you're back, and I'm going to show you how to do this quick ab workout one time in the morning, one time in the evening. Watch me. What you want to do is you want to lay down here, What I do on this exercise, I don't interlock my fingers together, okay? Just to keep from pulling on my neck. I know we say, well, I'm not pulling my neck, but just to make sure, what you want to do is you want to grab the side of your head, you want to palm it like a basketball, okay? Like this. Give yourself 6 inches in the air, and what you want to do is come up. 1. Okay, folks, I'm going to show you, as you can see me demonstrating, my elbows and my thighs are touching. They're connecting on every single set. And what I'm doing, as you notice, I have a slight bend in my knees. And the reason why is because of my back. If you have a bad back and you have problems, you want to keep that slight bend just to protect that area. You see my feet are extremely huge here, but that's okay. Don't be embarrassed, folks. And what's real important is to palm your head. Ensure that you're not interlocking your head on this exercise, because sometimes you tend to want to pull your neck when you interlock your fingers. So the thing is, you want to palm the head, and as your legs reach the center, you want your elbows to touch those thighs every single time. Crunch. Crunch. All right, folks, get fit with passion. Relax. And wow, folks, that's it. I just did an awesome ab workout, less than 30 seconds. I went from 1 to 7, 1 to 6, 1 to 5, and 1 to 4. What you want to do is you want to keep your legs straight. You want to ensure that you're palming the side of your head. Do that 1 time in the morning, 1 time in the evening. It's something quick. I know you got 30 seconds out of your day to complete this home workout. All right, folks, this is Wesley the Virgin, your master motivating master. Virtual trainer here with 7dayfitness.com. Get fit with passion.
So what are the most important things to do at the end of a presentation you're giving?
Oh, this is the best question. The most important thing to do at the end of a presentation is to ask the person who you just presented to what they need. So what happens often is that people give a presentation and then they just start giving more information at the end, where you want to stop giving information and actually ask, is there anything that I didn't cover? What do you need to know right now to join? Because they'll just tell you.
Ask the right questions for somebody to close themselves.
In my mind, presentation is not just to talk to people, but connect and touch their heart. So at the end, you need to summarize and then move them to the next step. How do you move them is based on how you connect with them and communicate through your passion and your vision that you talk about during the presentation.
What we want to make sure at the end of the presentation is to say, what did you think about what we just discussed? Okay, you want to get them thinking about seeing themselves in the company, in the business, and partnering with you. So ask thought-provoking questions and get them excited to partner with you.
I like to shake the hand of my guests and go over the most important things that matter to them.
What do you like about what you saw? They'll tell me that. Okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, where are you at in starting this business? 10 being I'm ready to go, 0 being nothing. Oh, you're a 7? Fantastic. What are the 3 points? And by the way, anything over 0 is good, all right? Because they have some interest. But what are the 3, say they have a 7, what are the 3 points that are holding you back from being a 10? And that's going to get you to their mother objection, which is, you name it, maybe fear of failure, money, time, not good at sales. And then you answer that objection and go from there.
And then, of course, asking them to come on board, to try the products as a customer, to become a team member in the business. But we've got to ask for them to come and get started.
We're not closing anyone just because we want to make them sign. We want them to make them feel what they can get with USANA and take a decision. It might be a yes, a not, or maybe having some extra time, but we need a decision.
Make sure that the person feels comfortable with the information they took a look at, and let them know that you're going to be following up with them.